Hi everyone, my name is Joseph John. I'm going to be showing you how to use Revit today. Last week was a little bit different than it's going to be this week. Last week I was having some trouble getting Revit started, but everything's loaded up now, so I should be able to show you how to use this with no problem. So a lot of you are going to be coming from maybe Autodesk programs like Autocad and Inventor, and this is going to have a very similar layout because it's made by the same company. And you'll be able to, like if you want to make something like a certain component or a part in Inventor, you can actually put that into Revit because all these programs are made by the same people. So you shouldn't have any issue converting models between them. So to start a new project and to make an actual house, which is what we're doing today, you're going to want to go to New under your Project section and then go to Architectural Template because we're making architecture, which is like a building. And right now we're going to have a big open area. A lot of you might not have this loaded on your computers yet, but if you're on a PC, which is the only thing that Revit's compatible with, there's no Mac support for Revit. You'll be using your middle mouse button, your little scroll wheel click to pan the camera, and you'll be able to drag and do everything with your left mouse button, and right mouse button's the same. Another thing that's a little bit different is that to move around in 3D, you're going to have to use this little cube, this view cube, which is a bit different than what you might be used to if you're used to Inventor. But on the left here, you can see all my different views. So right now we are in 3D view, and what we're going to be using for most of the project is the floor plan view. So right now I'm at level 1, and everything I do is going to be constrained to level 1. So I'm just going to kind of start showing how this is going to work. If I click on wall here, it's going to give me a choice to either drag like this from the center line, or I can actually go up here and then move around from the exterior interior wall. I'm going to do the exterior wall just so that things are snapping to the outside and not the center of the wall, which would give us some problems later on. And everything's nice and snappy. Things kind of, you can align things at different levels. So if I go to level 2, I can see my level 1 view, and I can move things separate. So you have the choice between like constraining stuff to individual levels or having them just go off into infinity. So these walls by default are going to be 20 feet high, and I want to constrain that to level 2. So I've got kind of more of a box, and I can just drag this to my own choosing. And now I've got the basics of a room here. I want to add a floor to that, so I'm going to go to floor, and there's an option to pick walls, which I'm just going to do like this. I'm going to hit OK. And now when I move my walls, it's going to move the floor with it because my floor is constrained to the edges of the boundaries of each wall. Make that maybe a wood floor. And I can change the view of this, like the style, by going to this little cube at the bottom here. I think I showed this last time. I can go to shaded, which is a bit higher quality. You can see colors, and realistic is coming closer to an actual render quality. If I want to do a door, I can click on door, and if you kind of hover your mouse over, there's like usually a keyboard shortcut for every different command in Revit. So door is DR, wall is WA. In AutoCAD, you just type in door or wall. So it's kind of a little bit confusing to get used to this new style of layout. But once you start using it for a couple of weeks, it'll become a lot more intuitive than it is at the start. So the nice thing about Revit is instead of having to like extrude the model and make a cut for each door like in AutoCAD, you can just click anywhere you want and make as many doors or windows as you want. And I can click on 1 or 2 doors and I can change the style or the size. But the problem is if I want to do a different door than is already in the project, I have to go to edit type and load in a new family. And this is true for everything in Revit. Every door or every component, you have to load in custom stuff. So once I hit edit type and load, I get this list of all these different types of things, railings, furniture. I want to go to doors, and maybe I want to do a glass door. Glass door, like this. I can pick my dimensions, and I can hold shift and do a couple if I want, but I really only need 1, so I'm going to do that. Hit OK, and then these will all change to glass doors. So again, I'm just going to kind of do that a bit more slow for anyone who maybe wasn't fully like, there's a lot of steps here. So you forgive me if I'm going too quick. If you want to add a different type or change a type, you just click something, go to edit type in the upper left-hand corner, hit load, and then you'll see a long list of all different categories. And so we want a door, so I'm going to go to my door folder here. I'm going to go to commercial because I'm doing like a small building. And I'm just going to pick the door I want. So I could do any of these really. You can actually import multiple ones at once, but if you import too many families into Revit at once, your computer will get really slow. So I'd recommend maybe not adding more than like 15 or 20 into each project unless you're doing like a big final project or something like that. So maybe I'll do one of these, 8 by 7 feet. And I've got 2 extra doors. So just to kind of recap what I've gone over right now, I've gone over walls, floors, and doors. And pretty much everything else in Revit is treated as either a wall, a component, or a floor. So this is one thing. This is one thing that's constrained to its own boundaries. And then the doors kind of just sit on the walls. So if I move the wall, the doors move with it. So everything's very, again, very snappy, very responsive to that. If I wanted to make the floor not move with the wall, I could go to edit boundary and click on one of these. And usually there'll be like a small, one of these. Oh wait, it was there for a second. A little lock. And if I don't lock that, you'll see that when I move the wall, oh wait, it actually did do that. Move that away. I think it's because I made it with that, but if I made it like another floor right here, like so, and let's say I had a wall adjacent to that, if I wanted this floor to move with the wall, I could go to top-down view, type in AL, click on the edge of the wall I want to snap to, hit this, and then just connect it. And then whenever I move this wall, that floor will move alongside with it. If I had a second wall right here, if I wanted the floor to actually expand and contract, I could create another wall, type AL on my keyboard, click that, click this, and that will snap with it. So I can move this, and they both kind of move. Unlock it. And now that will just, I can stretch this, which is a nice thing. If I move this off the boundary, it will still snap. So it's good to make sure you don't accidentally align something to a part of your building that you forget, and then find out later that you're accidentally moving your whole building as you move a wall. Because Revit likes everything to be kind of, attached as much as possible. I'm going to fix this. Okay, next I'm going to add a ceiling to this. So rather than going to my level 1 floor plan, I'm going to go to level 1 ceiling plan. I'm going to add a ceiling. And without doing anything, as soon as I hover over my floor on level 1, it will notice that I've got a floor there, and it will automatically put my ceiling there. So that saves me a lot of work, since I made the room first. If you were to not create the room first and you just wanted to just start messing around, you wouldn't have as much luxury here with, I guess, speed. And also that ceiling is constrained to the walls, just like the floor is. If I want to add some lights, I can go up to Insert, Systems, and then Insert Lighting Fixture. Then I have to load one in, so I'm going to go back to my big group of folders, go to Lighting, Architectural, Internal Lighting, and then pick a light of my choice. So I'm going to do a strip light. And that's not immediately visible, so I'm going to go to my elevation view and type AL again. I'm going to align this fixture to my ceiling, so when I move my ceiling, the fixture moves with it. and now that's attached. The next thing I'm going to do is create a basic array. So I'm going to go back to my ceiling plan. I'm going to type in RO to rotate that because I want that to be aligned. For some reason that's not rotating. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to type in AL now, and I'm going to create an array. You can also go up to modify and do these 4 squares. That does the same thing as the command. And I can multiply this as many times as I want. So if I want to make an evenly spaced row of lights like this, I can select it, type AR, or go to array, and then it'll give me a choice to choose. So I'm going to choose maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kind of adjust that to make that more even. And now I can create an array of that array by selecting all these, going up to my array button or typing AR again, and just doing this. So now I have 4 rows with 6 columns. And kind of got a lot going on here, so I'm going to go back to my 3D view. I'm going to go down to my little box here and type in wireframe so you can see through everything. I'm going to make this look a little bit more pretty. And if I wanted to, I could render this right now, but the problem is you would just see the top. You wouldn't be able to see through it. So I'm going to go to level 1. I'm going to go to my view tab. Go to where it says 3D view. There's a drop down. I want to add a camera. And I can just have like an interior view like this. Stretch that out. And now I'm going to go to component. This is how you add people and things like tables, chairs, something that would be on resting on a floor or on a wall. I'm going to go to, let's see, entourage is people. So if you're looking for people for your model, you want to go to entourage. And to find that, you want to actually go up to architecture and then components. So component, edit type, load, entourage, and then male or female. I'm going to do a girl. I'm going to add Kathy. Maybe Cynthia as well. There's already some components that come built into every Revit project, so I think there's a table and a chair. I'll put that right there. Might rotate that. Again, to align, you type AL. Array is AR, but align is AL. So it's kind of easy to get this confused. I'm going to go to my 3D view, and then if I want to right now, I can actually render this the way it is. So I want to go up to, you can type RR or just go to view and then render. And this is going to create like a professional stuff. This is what you put in a PowerPoint presentation. This is the final product as far as Revit's concerned. So if you set your quality setting higher, it's going to take longer. So right now I'm just going to do a quick, easy, oops, forgot to set my lighting scheme. Well, that's what it looks like on the outside, but I want to make that look nice on the inside because I added lights. If you go to interior, sun, and artificial, you'll be able to see, you know, the lights we have here, emitting light and the outside. Make sure that you don't set this to exterior scheme because you'll have just a dark room. And I can already tell that's going to be extremely overexposed. But there is a button to edit that once it's done. So if you have an image that looks like this, don't be afraid. Don't worry that you're going to waste too much time waiting for it. You can just adjust exposure like this. And we have sort of a pre-professional model there. The girl's actually sitting down. I forgot to give her a chair. Let me fix that real quick. I'll show in a minute here how to add your own custom models. There's a website called Suites Catalog that makes the special type of models that Revit takes. It's called a BIM model, which stands for Building Information Systems. And that's what we're actually going to be working with. We're not going to be working with OBJs or CAD drawings really as much as far as models are concerned. We're going to be actually doing things a little bit differently. So I've got the person sitting down now. I'm going to render this again. You can type RR or go to View. Lighting scheme is interior, sun, and artificial. And we already know it's going to be overexposed, so I'm going to wait for that to finish. Or you can actually cut it off early because Revit kind of over renders things. It makes you wait longer than you have to. Once it's at like 10% or 15, you can stop if you're in a hurry. Doesn't have to be perfect. Stop that, make that a bit brighter. Oops, too bright. Now I can export this image. And I can also show the model so we can see the before and after picture. If you missed any of those details that I kind of went through, you'll be able to see this as a recording. So all of this will be explained the same way I just did it. If I'm good with that, I can hit close. And if that's all you really want, you can stop there. But I'm going to add, don't stop the class, but if you're good with the model, you can actually do different angles. So one I like is the exploded Exonometric. This is more of something you'd see in engineering drawings. If you work with Legos as a kid, this is how Lego models were presented and how most CAD drawings show their models. So this is isometric. And I'm going to select just the parts that are in the way of my model. And I can go to my little sunglasses icon that's very small down here. I can go to hide element, and I can actually render from this viewport. So I can type RR again. I want to make sure this is actually in full view, or else it'll be a very small image. Type RR, and then I'm going to go to my same lighting scheme, interior, sun, artificial, or actually in this case, I'm going to do artificial only because I don't want any glare, because normally you wouldn't see the sun shining down on the inside of a room, obviously. I'm going to render that. Once again, Revit, for some reason, overexposes all the renderings at the start, but you can adjust for that very easily. This rendering view is more of like what you'd see in The Sims. The Sims has a top-down isometric view, and they have the walls that are right in front of the camera rendered invisibly. So that's no problem. Very nice, crisp picture. If you're going to put this into like an actual, if you're making a portfolio of work or you want to put this online, you're always going to want to export that as a TIFF, especially if you work with Photoshop, because that's going to have a raw, uncompressed photo that will look good. You won't lose any bits or pixels. I'm just going to call that 102. That's our model, and that's our rendering. So you can see big difference. If you were just to take a screenshot of your screen and put this in a PowerPoint, much less eye-catching than a good rendering. And I mean, I have a more upper-end PC. If you're on a laptop, this is going to take a bit longer, and you might have to wait. But like I said, if you want to wait until you're about 50% there, you can stop the rendering, and it won't erase the image. It'll just be unfinished. But the detail, it's already great the way it is. So I want to keep this. I can also undo my temporary hide by going down to my sunglasses and clicking reset the hide, and go to my other corner. Maybe I want to show this side as well. If I had something on this wall in particular that I wanted to illustrate. Do the same thing I did before, RR to render. Make sure my lighting is where I want it, and then render this. Gotta be a bit patient with rendering, I know. There are services online that render your image for you, but you can't really tweak it. So if it turns out the way you didn't like it, it's kind of like those old disposable cameras. Once you take a picture, you can't see it until it's done. So I'd always recommend either using a PC of someone you know or using a lab computer to do this, because trying to do it on your own laptop would take too long, in my opinion. So if you have that choice, I would definitely take it 100%. I like the way this turned out, so I'm going to export that as well. I call that render 3. Again, I'm going to use TIFF. If I'm someone who works with images professionally or I'm using Photoshop, you always want TIFF to avoid losing data. And I like that the way it is. So now that's the very bare bones basic elements of Revit. I haven't really shown how to do a roof, which I'll show right now real quick. But I want to actually get a elevation view. So if you've never worked with an architecture program before, you don't know what an elevation is. An elevation is a side, and a section is an elevation that's cutting through from a certain distance. So this is an elevation view right here. I can look at it in 3D if I wanted to do a rendering of this side. But right now, this is the elevation view. It's my north side. So the sun is going to be coming from over on the left here. No, excuse me. It's coming from the right. It's going to rise here and set here. So if I were rendering outdoor, I don't want to be looking at this way, because at noon, that would be lit. All right, so to create a roof, I'm going to go to roof right here. But because I'm in elevation view, I'm going to go to roof by extrusion. If I were doing this from a plan view, you would use roof by footprint. But I'm using extrusion because I have more control over the shape of the roof curve. If I want a roof that's different pitches at both sides of the roof, like if I had a roof that's uneven, you'd want to do this in most cases. It's asking me to pick a plane, so I'm just going to pick any plane that I can see, like this one. Put that level 2. I'm just going to start drawing the shape of my roof. And we'll make a point here like this, like this. And I'll erase that midpoint I did just to align these. Might stretch these over a bit just so we have an overhanging roof, because that is what you do in real life to avoid moisture dripping down your gutter, the side of your little fascia. That's why all if you look at any commercial construction or any house, residential house, they always have overhanging roofs. And it also just looks aesthetic. It would look hideous to have your roof line ending right at the wall. So right now, if I go to my shaded view, I'll see that these walls aren't quite going all the way up. They kind of stop. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is click on the walls I want to extend up. I'm going to go attach top base. And when I click on the wall, I'll get this, but it won't be there by default. You have to click on the wall, attach top base to the roof. Do the same thing on both sides. And then that wall is now attached to the bottom of the roof. I can do the same thing with these because these are kind of cutting through. Attach top base. And we have more of an appropriate looking house. I can change the thickness of the roof. Do whatever I feel is necessary. I just went down to roof rafter, asphalt shingle. And just to clarify, what I've kind of been doing here is just making something that's kind of like a blocked in version of what I want. And then I just edited the type. So for this wall, I just picked the generic wall and then changed it later, because I don't have too much stuff attached to the wall. If the wall were varying in thickness, like I had a wall like this that's 8 inches, and I changed that, and I had stuff aligned to that wall, it would actually push the floor in Revit at least. So if I want to change this wall to brick, I could go to think I like this one. And that's a much nicer looking wall. I'm going to raise my roof. For some reason, one side is not showing. Now we have a much nicer commercial looking thing. Almost looks like that fire department in E-Town. If you've ever seen a Northwest EMS by Masonic Village, has a kind of similar brick design, similar running course. Okay, so now I'm going to add some windows to this because it's looking kind of bleak from the inside. I might do a casement window. Most windows are about 3'6" off the floor, and that's what I'm going to do for this. Maybe put 2 there, 2 here. And if I want to make sure these windows are equally spaced, I can type a DI, which creates a dimension. In AutoCAD, that'd be DIM, but Revit's just DI. And I always want to measure from the center line in case I move the window or I align like this window to this wall. I want to make sure that they are both kind of locked in, equally spaced. So I'm going to make this 6'2". I'm moving that over. Move is MV, by the way. Move that exactly 2 inches. I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in here. And now these windows are like aesthetically, they're matching in the distance apart. Might put a back door here. Change that. Actually, I want a metal door. So I'm going to go back to my edit type, then load. Door, I'm going to do commercial. Single metal door. Maybe I'll go to hardware. Nope, not what I want. Residential, they have getting a bit closer to what I want. No metal doors. Okay, actually, this is a good opportunity for me to explain something else. There's something online called the Suites catalog, and I mentioned this earlier in this presentation. If you want to add your own custom Revit projects, if they don't have the kind of window or door you were looking for or certain HVAC element, you can go to this website called Suites Catalog, and that is suites.construction.com. And this is the site that's based all around the idea of BIM models, and that's what Revit takes. It's that, again, that stands for Building Information Systems. That's kind of what Revit's all about. So if you want to type in window, or in this case door, I can type in metal door and see what comes up. I want to make sure that I'm looking for a BIM model, not just any door. Maybe I'll type in just door. Oops. That looks like what I want. I'm going to go to downloads. I'm going to download this model. Looks like it took me to their site. I'm just going to pick a random one. So let's say I want this door. This actually sent me to their website. Normally you could download off the Suites catalog, but sometimes they do this. It's just like if you're applying to jobs on monster.com, sometimes they refer you to their own website because they want you to apply through their whole system and process you. So, oh, here we go. I'm not sure what the difference between these is. Oh, that's an image. All right, so when I download this, put that on my desktop. Try to find that amongst all my different icons. And this is going to be an RFA file. So I'm going to extract all this. I'm going to take this RFA file and I'm going to just drag and drop it into Revit. It might need to upgrade it. In this case, this was made in Autodesk 2009, and I'm putting it into a 2019 Autodesk thing. And clearly this model did not upgrade successfully because that looks like nothing. So that didn't work, but let's just pretend for a second that that actually worked. That's a 10-year-old, decade-old thing. So you just drag it and drop it and then put it in your model. Yeah, usually I'd recommend just using the stuff that comes with Revit because that's guaranteed to work. I've had bad luck sometimes. Let me try that again, actually. Try a different model this time. I'm going to be a little bit more vague. I'm just going to say door. Not really what I was looking for, but I'll take a sink. Oh, they don't have BIM. Wait. It's very important you pick BIM because otherwise you won't be able to get it into Revit. Okay, let's say I want this sink. You can always tell if you download the right thing because it should be an RFA file. If it's an OBJ or some other kind of file, it won't work. That's very important. This one was made in 2014. And thankfully, this one actually works. Okay, there we go. So now we have the indoor sink we wanted. And Revit wants to align that to a wall. So I'm going to go to component. And I'm going to put that right here. Go back to my 3D view. Maybe I'll make another camera view. Looking at the sink like this. And maybe I'll put a picture on the wall. On second thought, I'll just put a TV. So I can't think of where to find a picture frame off the top of my head. I'm going to render this again. Again, if you want to render, that's up at View and then Render, or just type RR on your keyboard. Just got to make sure that's interior. It's hard to see, but that's so exposed that it's actually almost looking like just a white picture. I'm gonna fix that real quick. There we go. This one turned out very nice. Although I noticed there's a bit of an issue. I have my ceiling a bit too low, or Revit set it pretty low by default. So I either want to raise that or lower the windows. I might lower the windows because that's more hassle-free. I'm going to go to the side of my building with the windows on them, which was, I think was my west side. Yep. I'm going to do hold control as I select these three. I'm going to type MV on my keyboard. And I'm just going to drag those down to my third course of CMU. And now that looks much better. I might actually stretch this image out just to show that third window or the fourth window. And I'll type RR again. Render that image. Oh, actually, I want to put a person in there. Thankfully, I can edit in this view. This little arrow on the entourage kind of shows which direction they're facing in top-down view. I'm going to render this once more. Just to kind of recap while we're waiting for that to finish. Really, all the useful commands you need to know in Revit are MV is move, AL is align, CO is copy, DR is door, WN is window. Ceiling and floors, I don't think they have a command. You just have to go into top-down view and click on the door button up here. If you're more of a visual learner and you prefer to actually have the buttons visible to you and then click them, you have the whole upper side of the screen, so that will definitely help you if you're new to Autodesk programs. If you're not and you're a seasoned veteran and you're just looking to do it as quick as possible like I am, I'd recommend just looking at like a cheat sheet of all different types of commands in Revit. So Revit commands, Google Images, you get all these shortcuts right here. NV is move, CO, or CC is copy. That's actually CO now. It's not CC anymore, so ignore this. RO is rotate, AR is array, MM mirror, that might help you. Sometimes DE is delete, GP is group, and no one really uses these other ones. Those are kind of, if you really want to learn everything, but I've never used these. Really, these four are all you need to know. And this one should be CO. Make that a little bit darker because that's very bright. Maybe a little bit brighter. There we go. And export this again. Use TIFF. Well, if you're just looking for a quick out, I would pick JPEG. If you're sure you're not going to edit ever again. TIFF is a large file size, so we can do JPEG if that's quicker for you. I usually export in all three, just to be on the safe side in case I want a quick version or a quality lossy version. Now I can go down to my images and view them. Make a new folder. renderings. And we can look at what we've done so far. So here's what I've got. We have the first interior view, and that's looking through like a camera lens. We have our isometric views and our first person little side angle views. This kind of looks like a dentist's office. So that is pretty much all I need to know about rendering. My specialty in Revit is like rendering. That's kind of what I do. So that's mainly what I was focusing on today, kind of quickly making a model that looks good as a rendered image. If you're an engineer and you're looking to do something that actually works, like a working drawing, you're going to be using the structure, steel, and systems tabs the most. So you can have like a sprinkler, a plumbing fixture. I could put in, let's say, a toilet or a shower or a water closet, as they call toilets in England and the UK and Europe. I've got a toilet right here. If I want to create another wall, I can just do WA, pick an interior partition. Also, if you're making a wall and you wonder what these mean down here, these 1 hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, these are how long the wall would last in a fire. So that's a fire rating. I'm going to create a maybe 5.5 inch partition right here to make a little bathroom. I want to make sure that hits the wall. I don't want to cut that door. We'll put a door right here. Just a single flush interior door for our bathroom. Rotate my toilet. Feels like a weird thing to say on a video call. Maybe I want a sink in there too. Actually, I want to edit this floor first, so I'm going to kind of pinch this off. Have that in there. I'm going to create a new floor. I'm going to make this tile. So right here, wood joist, 10-inch ceramic tile. I'm going to put that where my bathroom is. I want to make sure that at least one of these floors is going through where the door is, or else there'd be kind of a blank spot there in the rendering. If I go to 3D view and I look like at this without the roof on, hide that, hide the ceiling. I can see that now I've got like a tile area here and a wood part here. So I could render from right where I'm looking. Give that a few seconds to cook. And you can see that I've got a tile floor in this little section where the bathroom is, and then a wood floor here. There is a second way that's a bit more complicated and involved, but I could show that at a later date. You can actually take one floor and subdivide it into different materials. But yeah, maybe I'll touch on that if I've got extra time at the end, but that's not super important right now. Right now, I just want everyone to be comfortable with making walls and doors and kind of having a finished product as quick as possible. And those Revit commands will definitely help with that, I think. I'm going to export that again. Render 5, I think I'm at now. Go back to level 1, so I've got my little bathroom. Need to add a sink too. And like I was mentioning, if you're an engineer, you'll have all these different items at your disposal. So you'll have, we can add HVAC stuff. I'll get back to the bathroom in a second. This is somewhat relevant.
Joseph?
Yeah.
So they probably want to compare to, you know, the SketchUp also. And so what you've done so far is taken about 45 minutes. I just want them to think about that. Now, it'll take them a lot longer because you know the stuff. But then you have about 25 minutes left. And so if you want to fit in a SketchUp thing that's somehow similar to this, and then talk about how you can't do some of the things in SketchUp and how some of the things are maybe easier and quicker to learn.
Sure. Okay, so I'm just going to transition out of this. I'm just going to save this real quick to get that out of the way. I think I got a lot done for 45 minutes there. I call that municipal building. Now, a lot of the models I used in Revit to make this, I could not get into SketchUp. So if I wanted to make this exact replica in SketchUp, I would have to pretty much model it all by hand and make the groups, which would be a much more involved process. In Revit, you can just drag and drop stuff, which is definitely much more convenient. But in SketchUp, you have full control over everything. You can edit stuff quick. You can do the same thing here. If I wanted to change this exact window and I wanted to make it like a little bit different, I could edit the family. I would want to save a copy of this family because this is actually on your computer's hard drive in the Revit software package. So if I edited this and saved it and I messed it up, I couldn't undo that. So that's one downside. But I could just save a copy and edit. That's what I do for most of my projects that require custom dimensions. Like if I want to make this an incredibly tall window, I could go to properties. And these are all done by hand. If you made a custom family in Revit, you'd have to edit all the parameters by hand and make your own parameters. So that actually requires a bit of coding. So again, that's a super involved process. SketchUp is much more kind of beginner friendly.
However, you would agree, Joseph, these windows are all industry standard from manufacturers' data spec sheets from the BIM. The standard ones in Revit, I'm certain would be, and then anything you get from suites would be. So these are things, if you specified them as an architect or engineer, the builder could get them. If you change the dimensions, you may be then changing the price, or it just can't be made at all. And
Right.
I'm not sure about in SketchUp if anything would even exist in reality that you're making.
No, you definitely need the spec sheets for everything if you want to do that.
Okay.
So the nice thing about Revit is it's all automatic. Like right here, you can see all these. You have analytical properties, visual light transmittance, solar heat gain coefficient, all these super detailed stuff that you would, if you were doing like an analysis of how much a place would cost to cool, that could be really important to you and invaluable. But SketchUp, you're just making pretty much a massing model, or just like a rough sketch if you want to. Well, I mean, yeah, it's SketchUp, so it depends on how far you want to go. With SketchUp, it's very a lot quicker, but you can't really use it beyond SketchUp. You could export it or make a rendering like I do, but beyond rendering and just quick diagrams, there's not much you can do with SketchUp as far as engineering.
You're in SketchUp now, and this is the free online version that they should be able to find on the internet.
Yeah, this is free, the free version.
They have ones that you have to pay for. What do you get out of the ones you pay for? You know?
I can check. Let me see.
Yeah.
So it's yearly now. It's about $120 a year for the web only. For the desktop and web, it's $300, but you can probably get an older version for free if you wanted to. I think you can get a trial. Oh wait, excuse me. I was on the professional one. On personal, yeah, it's free, but only on web. For desktop, you have to pay, I think.
It seems like it's evolving into something you could actually make a real building with, but I'm just not convinced yet. But I see people doing it on small residential projects. I don't think any architect or engineer on a larger building would use it yet.
No, well, I've seen it used by people, like real people who are industry professionals, but only just to distribute like a quick model to people who are working on maybe a small part. Because Revit is so, it's cost so much per license that it's just, people get priced out of it.
Okay.
It's like thousands of dollars. So pick $20,000 licenses versus like 20, 110 or $300 licenses.
My biggest concern is, can you actually build from what you draw? And I know Colton was saying that there is some plugin or something where you can get dimension drawings, but I'm not sure that the.
Oh no, it's built in. I can just do this.
Yeah. Okay.
So in Revit, you can just download or insert the door model, but here we actually have to. We can make it by hand, but I'd like to use they have their own version of Suites catalog, kind of that same kind of thing called 3D Warehouse, but other people make these. So, I mean, the Revit has their own library of stuff, and SketchUp doesn't have really that. They only have like a few little demo models you can throw into your project, but beyond that, I mean, I can show you what they've got in SketchUp by hand. So
Does Suites have SketchUp BIM for them, or
no, there's no BIM in SketchUp. It's not like that.
then Colton, you're on here. What did you say the name of that thing that you use to make it working drawings? Colton.
Layout.
Layout. You know what that is, Joseph?
Yeah, it comes with SketchUp, I think.
Oh, it comes with it. Okay. I see dimensions there, so I mean it's a working drawing of sorts. I just worry about the fixtures and the doors and windows. If you
that would usually, I mean, you've worked on real projects, right? Wouldn't that be specified on its own page, on its own separate thing?
But the dimensions may not work, or what you're looking at may not be real, or maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know this program. I just know everybody wants to use it because it's easier. So yeah, tell us what you think as you're making this.
Oh, me, okay.
Yeah.
So in the bottom right, you can see length right there. So it's kind of hard to control. You don't have as much control as Revit does over like the precision is way off on this. It's very hard to get things done quick that are accurate like Revit, but I mean, maybe I take that back. I don't know. I mean, it does what's intended to do. That's all I'll say. I prefer Revit for what I do because it's just so fast, but it's also very expensive, and I've been using it long enough that it wouldn't really make sense for me to say that it's better because they both have their own strengths. I mean, speed, if you're looking for speed, then this, but I mean, I really don't know. I don't know what professionals do besides the few people I've shadowed over the years doing jobs and internships. Everyone has their own kind of workflow. It really depends on what you're doing. If you're a real architect, you probably just use a variety of tools, a huge variety. So Revit is just one of those. AutoCAD is probably the only thing that literally everyone uses. If you use AutoCAD, you can do just about anything.
Can you describe the difference between AutoCAD and Revit? They're both by Autodesk, and I thought Revit grew out of AutoCAD.
AutoCAD, no, Autodesk they acquire a bunch of different stuff. So
okay.
AutoCAD is just a CAD drafting program. You make computer-aided drafting, just drawings. You can make 3D models as well, but I find that a lot harder in AutoCAD. I would use every program has its own specific advantage. So AutoCAD is drawing, Revit is making BIM stuff, Rhino is making 3D stuff like bolts or stuff you want to 3D print where you want to calculate how much volume it takes and stuff like that. It really depends on what you're using.
What about Rhinoceros?
To move, yes, what were you saying?
I would say, what do you think about Rhinoceros and Flamingo?
If you're modeling something that's stationary, like a tool or a bolt or something that you're going to make, I would use Rhino. If you're making something that wants to move, then definitely use Inventor. If it's not moving and it doesn't have to be that specific, I'd say use SketchUp. If you're making a house, use AutoCAD or Revit. There you go.
Good. I think it's worth mentioning on residential projects, my experience in industry and also being on carpentry crews when I was younger, is that a carpenter doesn't really need working drawings. You could hand them something in SketchUp. You could just hand them a sketch, but it's nice to have some details, and they'll figure out the details. But when you get on larger construction jobs, even if they are stick frame, wood, timber structures, when you get larger, the working drawings have to be such that it can be priced very specifically for all the materials. And then when you go up several stories, it's critical about the dimensions for structural purposes, and then integrating the systems. So you kind of really need more detail. And that's, I believe, why you're going to see Revit and that level of software be critical for any kind of large building. But again, you know, carpenters can build from almost anything, a good carpenter. You know, and the building inspectors, I don't know how building inspectors will think about SketchUp. I don't know if any of you have dealing with that. I know you guys are working on a greenhouse and you're going through inspections and things for that. Did you, anybody speak up for about that? Colton or Donato? Do you have anybody can say anything about trying to do SketchUp drawings through building inspection?
No, Colton did that for the greenhouse. He used Revit and SketchUp, I think, for his design, but we don't really use it in like the permit. I mean, like, it's just nice to show like facilities and stuff, like what you're working on, I guess, like, so they get like the picture of it. I guess it's good to show like how serious you are with your project.
And that'll vary. I've gone through building inspection in different states, and Pennsylvania's somewhere in the middle. California is extremely strict, where there's nailing schedules. I mean, you have to actually show door schedules, window schedules, you know, really serious details for plumbing and gas lines and things, you know, earthquake kind of things, structural things. And then Texas was the opposite, especially outside the cities, where you basically no code enforcement at all when, you know, 35 years ago when I was there. So there's something, I'm just mentioning it because it's something you might want to consider down the road if you never learn Revit, but you do want to do buildings and you want to do them on a large scale in a big A&E firm or your own project. If you're going to be a developer or whatever, and build something bigger than a house, you might need the Revit level of knowledge to get whatever you're doing through the inspection process and, you know, the code approval, plan approval. There's all kinds of things. I mean, it's separate inspections too for electrical and for plumbing and for structural and for soil mechanics and runoff, as well as the fire code. The fire in California, you have to go to the fire, I forget the guy's name, the fire commissioner, but you need special approval for that. You need special ADA approvals through other people's in big places, in big cities, especially in California. But for this project, sorry to interrupt so much, Joseph. I want you to get back to talking about the differences here, because some of you may not want to get into buildings. I just want you to know that this is the place where you may want to learn it, or just know enough about it where you can know what you'll have to learn later. Okay, sorry for talking so much, Joseph. Back to you.
Yeah, no problem. Just from going to Revit to this, I'm immediately noticing, you know, I'm using the software for a long time, but using them in such like side by side, Revit really does a lot better with just getting stuff into the model quick. Like this, I have to kind of extrude every individual hole for the window, which is a lot of monotonous work. I don't even know how to do this really. You just kind of have to work through it. It's definitely a pain having to draw everything. I mean, it's fun doing stuff quick, but at some point it just becomes inefficient to have to draw everything unless you have a lot of people working on the project, in which case that might be to the benefit. I mean, I don't know how projects are run anymore, so.
Well, this is a great lesson for them because you are really an expert in Revit, in my opinion, but you don't use SketchUp a lot, so you're kind of learning it as you go here. And so they can.
I've been using it for about 2 years, so I wouldn't say I'm totally new to it, but.
Okay. I'm just trying to assess the relative comparative speed for them to do it by modeling your speed based on your expertise of each of them.
I think just whatever works for each person, because everyone has a different perspective and different level of skill. So really either one can be quick. it just depends on, I mean, how much of a rush you're in, how good you are with software in general. I mean, if you're not a computer person, it's going to be a lot harder to maybe learn Revit at the beginning, but once you kind of get a groove on, it should be effortless.
There's about 7 minutes left, so I don't know if you want to leave some time for questions or if you want to narrate. It looks pretty close to the other one. You didn't put any plumbing or anything in it. You can't render this or lighting or anything like that. So you might
No, it's very limited in that respect, but it's a very small program, so it's sort of like MS Paint compared to Photoshop.
Hmm.
That's why I put it.
That's a big gap. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not quite that harsh, but I mean, there's definitely a level up to Revit. It takes a while to kind of segue into if you're new. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much done because I mean, I could try to find more stuff to put in, but I think I've explained both pretty well. If anyone has a question, that'd be great, but these are recorded, so anything that someone might have missed, I guess they can look over on your website, right?
You could type it in the chat if you don't feel like saying it out loud, and I'll read it if anybody wants to ask a question. You are being recorded.
Yeah,
So
no one ever pipes it up on these video calls anyway, so I'd be amazed if someone had the courage to ask.
Well, even when you're being, even with me, when I'm being recorded, it's different than, I lecture every day almost, but when you recorded, it's stuck. You can't go back and change it. So I understand. Let me just say for everybody, as you're deciding, you certainly have an option in this project due Sunday to do either one of these. And in your second project that's also Revit or SketchUp, you could, if you want to, change your mind and switch between the two. But you're probably going to want to lock into one of them for both of your assignments that are, one due Sunday and the other one due a little bit after that. And then your final project, you have the option to do all kinds of things there, including building physical models, sketching, and Joseph might do another perspective thing for all of you. I think you could benefit from just watching him, working along with him. He did 4 of those sessions, or 3 or 4 with a freshman, and they really,
actually.
did you? Yeah, they really produced some amazing stuff. And so you see, they're recorded on that perspective thing that I sent everybody, but I think it's good to do it live with all of us talking and watching. And then the freshmen, I had everybody with pencil and paper too, and straight edge. So it's a really important skill for engineers too, when you walk out on a job site, to be able to sketch something. For the job superintendent is essentially the foreman for the subcontractors on the site. And you would be a project manager of some sort, most likely for an engineering firm or an architectural firm, or the developer, which is how I did it. And you just have to be able to go out there and give an idea quickly of what you need for a change order or a clarification. And you should have some drawing skills of some kind in 3 dimensions. And if it's too cartoony, people really don't know what you're talking about. It's interesting that it seems like in SketchUp, they have all these blankets and towels. And can you do that kind of stuff in Revit too? Like,
Well, these are made by people, so it really depends on who's making the model and where you found it. So making models in Revit is pretty much a nightmare. So that's one thing I'd say that SketchUp shines, is that you can make small stuff like sinks a lot quicker, because Revit hates curves. I've mentioned that on multiple occasions.
Yeah, and factories hate curves too. I mean, because Revit is usually real stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you don't want to make a fantasy thing that nobody's going to want to manufacture, or be too costly to manufacture to be able to sell it comparable to non-curved things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see the allure of SketchUp, because it's more like game-like and more immediate, and there's not a million different things you got to do. You don't have all these menus and things that come dropping down, and details on the sides that you have to specify.
Yeah, I mean, my first week in Revit was just fighting to try to figure out what the menus meant. There's so many menus that it looks like the same thing, just, you know.
Oh, it took me a couple weeks to make those simple tutorials that I made these assignments from, and I still don't know all the stuff that you do by or anywhere near it in Revit. It's like anything else. It's a language, you know, or you get accustomed to the grammar or the vocabulary of where you're at, and certain style and grammar software, as well as learning foreign languages and things. So there's I see, Joseph, you just got to a point where you know everything so well that you don't even have to look you don't have to look too deep. You know how everything's grouped. And I think these 2 assignments you're going to do in Revit will give you that idea of how, you know, especially when you're using suites catalog and categories of doors and windows, and have some appreciation of it, and you need to, you know, in that first assignment, at least demonstrate it in an essay, some appreciation of it from watching the videos. You don't have to create anything in it, which is a special COVID thing. I probably go back to requiring it after COVID, when you're all together and you can do it in pairs or in even teams of 3 if we're packed in too tight. And then you learn from each other, and you're right there with machines that are working. But when you're on your own now during COVID, I don't want to make you have to do Revit when there's definitely obstacles in computing power, availability, and just not having the collaborative experience in the classroom with other people. But it'll be back. It'll be back soon. I'll emerge from this next year. So only got a couple minutes left. Do you want closing remarks here, Joseph, for everybody?
Yeah, thanks for everyone for paying attention to this very long lecture on modeling software. I know it can be pretty dull just to kind of follow instructions for an hour, but yeah, I mean, pretty much all modeling is just kind of creating your own instructions in a way. That's how I put it. It's really, I mean, if you're having fun, I would stick with it. There are so many modeling softwares out there. These are just a handful out of just a sea of really just garbage, and maybe the top 10 software is good. It just depends on what's natural for you to use. Yeah, I mean, that's all there is to say, really. You just have a good time, do what you think is right, and yeah, try to get an A.
And I do believe Revit is an industry standard that I've seen with the professional architects coming to present at college and the people I know. But I know in Europe, there's a different version. I forget the name of it, but it's in that one video that I asked you to look at. There's a little video of a professional architect right in the beginning of the homework where the guy, there's a 5-minute thing comparing different kinds of software. I think he's comparing Sketchup to Revit, but also to the European professional software, which I believe they use in Australia, and I'm not sure about Asia. And there could be other ones, I'm sure, but the BIM system is key, having all that data that tells you what is real. And then there's specifications, which we're not talking about in here. Some of you have seen that before. And that could be a huge, giant 1,000-page thing like that. Those of you who went with me on the field trip to the Sports Fitness and Wellness Center trailer, and we looked at the working drawings, I believe there was 2 volumes, each 1,000 pages of specifications, that words and materials, details, and if alternatives are going to be approved, they need to be certain to certain ASTM standards, and so you're only going to find that level of correlated information in a BIM kind of system like Revit using suites, or the European version. I forget the name of that. But again, SketchUp, small buildings, hand it to a carpenter, hand a SketchUp drawing. I could build this building from, if it has dimensions, which I believe it does, I saw that. If it has dimensions, I could build this by hand without anything but this. But I wouldn't want to try to do a 3-story thing. And if you start using steel or reinforced concrete, forget about it. I mean, I don't think you can even specify rebar or anything in this kind of program.
Nope.
Okay, well, we're out of time, so I'm going to stop recording here, and then I'll put this online. And then I will see all of you next week. Oh, before we go, next Wednesday, that has to be recorded asynchronous because I'm going to be with President, Senior Staff. She's with the trustees right now in this important meeting right after that, talking about what we really are going to build, can build, what we have money for, what COVID still needs. We spent $600,000 just on COVID, just to keep you guys safe with just little retrofits of everything. But we want to keep moving forward beyond this present setback. And so I need to be in that meeting. And so I'm going to make a pre-recorded thing, and I'll send an announcement about that. And we're going into active solar now, and then into, after that, some passive heating and cooling. And so I'll have something recorded for you to listen to. So, and then we should be back live in person again next Friday, should be the plan. Okay, let me stop recording here. Didn't need to